Hi everybody and welcome to Fab Tax. I'm Rosemary, and in today's video I have some high-end Dollar Tree and Trash to Treasure DIYs that are perfect for your porch and patio decor. There are more planters and plant stands, wall decor, centerpieces, a little herb garden, as well as some candle dupes and more. Now you might be wondering why so many outdoor decor pieces. Well, you might have guessed it, makeovers are to come. First one will be a patio makeover, and then part 2 will be a porch makeover, followed by a deck makeover in part 3. But for now, let's go ahead and get started with today's DIYs. First up is a candle in a cement holder from Hearth and Home by Magnolia, sold at Target. I just loved these candles when I saw them, but I wasn't in love with that $12.99 price tag, so I thought, let me see how I can recreate this finish and do a DIY version at home. First, I thought to use the jar from an old jar candle that I had, and this way I could just finish the glass once, use votives inside, and then have the holder ongoing. But then I remembered I had this candle from Aldi, which I had picked up, I think for like $3.99, and this was very similar to the shape of the Magnolia candle. So I said, you know what, I'm going to just give this one a try as well. And then I also had this jar candle that I had from a previous project that was in my craft closet, and I thought I'd give that a shot as well. To make the cement finish, I found a wonderful recipe online, and I will link that below. But basically you use 3/4 parts of spackle to 1/4 part of paint. Now in the recipe they did use tinted primer instead of the chalk paint, but I figured the chalk paint would be a good substitute, and it actually was. Since I had a spot in the finish from where the label was, I thought to add some Mod Podge to the section, and then I figured I would just paint the entire surface with some Mod Podge to create a nice even surface as well as a good base coat. Since the jar candle from the previous project had already a coat of paint on it, I just proceeded to paint directly on that one, but that ended up being my guinea pig, so for the rest of this DIY I'll just be using the Aldi candle. And so you can see how nice this paint is. I was really impressed with it. Look how nice and smooth it comes on. It has great texture and great workability. It's nice and fluid. It's not like chalky or too thick or anything. So it really is wonderful. And then to get nice even strokes from top to bottom, I put the candle on top of the spackle container, and this way it elevated it off the work surface, and I was able to get those strokes straight from the bottom to the top. After letting the first coat dry completely, I did go back to apply a second coat. Now I did make an error here in that I should have used a fresh batch of the spackle paint. You can see here where it is a little dry, a little thick, it is clumping up a little bit. I mean, it was still workable and I was able to use it, but I would definitely suggest using a fresh batch of paint for the second coat. And I also added some of the paint to the top of the candle and just made sure that I didn't have any getting into the candle itself. Next, I took some of the original mineral colored chalk paint as well as some of this steel colored chalk paint and put them both together along with some water to create a little glaze in order to create those color variations that you naturally get in cement. Now since this is lighter and also diluted with the water, it will just create a spotty effect that we're looking for. And so I'm going to add some of the diluted paint around the edges of the candle, as well as in various spots all through the body of the candle. And again, when this dries, when you see it here, it does look like it's blotchy, but when it dries, it will give that muted kind of just color variation effect. Once the glaze was dry, I wanted to do the lettering. So I took some painter's tape and I just placed 2 pieces with a little space in between. Now the name of this candle is Mint Basil, and so I want to put that on the front, and I'm going to use this Play School marker. The Sharpie didn't actually work. I had to use this Play School marker. On this surface it didn't work. And so what I did was I just started with that second word, basil, and I'm just using the pieces of tape as a guide so that the top of my letter and the bottom of my letter hit each one of those spots. And so I am having some difficulty doing this at this angle, so I just went ahead and finished off the rest of the letters, and you can just see there where that tape method just works out perfectly. You're able to keep everything in line. And then here we have the finished project, and here you can see those little color variations I was referring to. And then here's the original. And this one, because of the Aldi candle, it was $4.50. But if I used the recycled one, it would have only been about 50 cents in materials. And again, the Hearth and Hand by Magnolia one is $12.99. The next DIY is a Trash to Treasure Recycle and Repurpose. I originally got this two-tiered basket from Kohl's, and I did get it on clearance and with Kohl's Cash, my favorite combo. Sadly, though, it never really did find a home. It floated around from kitchen to bathroom, and it's been a couple years outside, as you can see from the sun damage. But I decided it would make a great little herb garden, and so I'm going to use that in combination with these recycled tomato cans that I'm going to paint white. Before painting, I did drill some holes in the bottom of the cans. Now, I have not mentioned about the drilling in previous videos, and folks always ask me that, but yes, drill holes if you need them for what you're planning. Once the cans were painted, I just went back with some black craft paint and painted along the edges of the can to create a chipped enamel look, and then also painted along the body, just creating little black scuff marks all along to create an aged look for the can. To apply the lettering, I'm again going to use the painter's tape, but this time I'm going to just use one piece, and I'll use the ridge at the top of the can for my bottom line, and then the tape to create the top border. Now this time I am going to use the Sharpie, and I'm going to use that same method of creating these small letters, and I'm going to make sure that the top of the letter is at that top border, and then the bottom of the letter is on the bottom border, which is the crease of the can. And then I'll just go through and use that same method, kind of just making tall, skinny little letters. But you can see here I did a no-no, and I pulled the tape off too soon. So it did create a bleed on the letters. So I had to go back with some paint marker and fix those errors. And then I saw another great video online that said when planting herbs, you should always put rocks at the bottom of your planter. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will link that video down below. And then here is the finished project, a little two-tiered culinary herb garden. And I do believe that my little Kohl's Cash treasure has found itself a home and a purpose. The next project is a fun little Dollar Tree DIY using a child's watering can and then just spray painting it with some copper spray paint. Now, of course, you first need to get this sticker off, and let me tell you, it was a bugger. As you can see here, I mean, it wouldn't give for anything. So I did have to soak it and also use some Goo Gone to get rid of the residue. Before painting, I did add some newspaper to the inside of the container because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any paint on the inside where it is black. Now, this watering can does come in like pinks and yellows and different colors. And I did want to get the back black because I wanted to have that on the inside and not have to spray the inside. So if you do get one of the other colors, you will have to spray the inside. It won't look good with the copper. So anyway, this is what it looks like when it is painted. You can see there it has the nice black still on the inside. And then here is the finished project with some flowers, and makes such a cute addition to any little patio or porch table. Now, I know most people will say, Rosemary, those need to be thrown in the trash. Those things are a hot mess. And I'd agree, they're pretty bad, especially as tables since the tops are all warped and broken. So we'll need to find a different use for these. And I think that if we were to just clean them up a little and flip them upside down, we could add this bucket to the top and create a beautiful plant stand planter. So what I did was I removed the tops from the bases and gave the bases a nice coat of black spray paint. I glued and filled the cracks in the tabletops and then painted them with some polyurethane paint. Then I went back and I attached the tabletops to the bases. And what I'm going to do now is add some E6000 to the tabletops and then glue the two tabletops together. So now this is what they look like in this new configuration. And what I'm going to do with the bucket is up here at the top, there is now a space I can put the bucket in. And once I fill that bucket with some beautiful flowers, or in this case, a lovely fern, it makes a wonderful plant stand and display. For this next DIY, I'm going to use a large cat litter container, as well as some of these Favor Surprise yo-yos from the Dollar Tree, and some black spray paint. First, I need to remove the handle, and I did try to pull it out with pliers, and it was like a no-go. So I went back with my utility knife, and I just cut through the handle very carefully and very slowly, making sure, to get the cut right. And then it actually does create like kind of a little decoration. So it works. Next I took my yo-yos and I just removed the string. I just pulled it out and then just cut it there right at the top. And now what I'm going to do is take 2 of the yo-yos and I'm going to glue them together with some E6000 glue. And I'm going to do that for all 8 of the yo-yos so that I create 4 legs. Because that's what these are going to be used for. They're going to be used for little legs for our container. And so now here's what they look like after they have been painted with black spray paint. And so again, I'm going to take some E6000 glue and just glue each one of the legs to each of the 4 corners. And again, if you do want holes, you could drill at this stage. I have the drill there in the back, but I always forget to mention it or show the drilling. And then here's what the planter looks like once the little feet are attached, and I put in a beautiful hydrangea plant. My parents had the most beautiful purple hydrangea plant in their backyard growing up, and once I saw this past Mother's Day, I said, I need to get that in honor of them. But I wasn't so sure about the front of this planter. I like it, but it doesn't really scream fun front porch summertime type look. So I thought I'd fun it up a little bit and add some of these great polka dot letters that I have. They're like a vinyl letter that I happen to have in my stash. And here is what it looked like. I decided I had enough room for at least 2 letters, and being that this will be on the front porch, I thought high is the perfect word. My next DIY is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and that is to create a centerpiece for my patio table. And so if you see here, I have 2 packs of the large paint stirrers. I also have a selection of recycled bottles, and then also a couple packs. I actually use 3 packs of the Dollar Tree beads, and then some skewers and also some craft sticks and some paint. I have some white and some cashew chalk paint. I did not end up using the hazelnut. I just used those other 2 colors. Now I have to point out that this is a very large piece. You can see here how it is with the 2 sets of the large paint sticks back to back. It does extend quite long. So if you are not up for building an ark and you just want something on a smaller scale, of course you can use the smaller paint sticks or maybe some craft sticks and accomplish the same look. So the first step was to glue the paint sticks together. And I did that using this tight bond glue, but you can use Gorilla Glue or a wood glue would work just as fine. And then I took some popsicle sticks and I glued those across the paint sticks. And I did that about every inch, inch and a half until I got to that last 3.5 inches of there at the bottom. I did leave that blank because I'm going to use those for the larger craft sticks. But I did do both sides of the tray. And now I'm going to just apply these larger craft sticks to the center and do those horizontally. Next, I took some of the Dollar Tree wood craft cubes and created little feet at the bottom of my tray with those. So for my first set of cubes, I applied those to each end of the first popsicle stick. Counted 3 popsicle sticks and added another set of cubes, 3 popsicle sticks, and then another set of cubes. And then I'm going to do the same to the other side. And here you can see what it looks like with all the little cubes applied. So it's 1 set, 3 popsicle sticks, 1 set, 3 popsicle sticks. So now I'll just leave this to dry, and then I'm going to head on over to my bottles. I'm going to soak those and remove the labels. I'm also going to start working on my bead border. And all I did to make that was to take one of the Dollar Tree skewers, and when I removed that top, I did like impale myself with those multiple times. It really hurts. They're very pointy. So be sure to remove the very point of that skewer. And then I actually started on the other end, but what I found was that I, added a little glue, and then I started adding some of the beads, and then invariably one of the beads was really tight. So then I made that one the bottom piece to really hold those in place, and then I proceeded to add the rest through the pointy tip, which is how I came to discover how pointy those tips are. But anyhow, once they were all done, I put them into a styrofoam block and then just took them outside and sprayed them with some white spray paint. To do the faux finish, I did a kind of a reversal switcheroo. So here, this is this beautiful natural wood on these paint sticks, and it's very similar to this color of chalk paint called cashew. And because of all the different colors of the beads, I didn't want that on this tray. I painted them white, and then I'm going to faux finish them with the cashew. And I'm going to take the white chalk paint, and I'm going to faux finish the natural or cashew colored paint sticks with the white. So first I'll start with the paint stick tray, and I'm going to go ahead with some white chalk paint. I did dilute this a little bit, so it is a little bit more runny. And then I just proceeded to dry brush the white kind of diluted chalk paint onto the wood. And now this is going to just give that great like natural beachy kind of whitewashed look or bleached out look to this wood. And so I'm doing this with a very dry brush, and I'm doing it just a little bit at a time because I want to make sure that I get it right to that right point where I want it to be. And I don't want to go too heavy with the paint because then I might pass that point and then be sorry. So this way I just go a little bit at a time and I can get it exactly how I want it to go. Now I'm going to do a reverse of that for the faux finish on the beads. So I'm going to take the white paint stick and now I'm going to dry brush on the cashew color. And so you can see as I'm doing that, how well that begins to match the wood of the tray. So in effect, they both have both colors with streaks of the other. And it's just kind of which came first, the chicken or the egg, the white or the cashew. So in this case, you won't be able to tell once both pieces are finished. And then once the beads were completed, I just went and attached those to the edges of the tray using some of that Titebond glue, but you could also use some wood glue or Gorilla Glue. Even hot glue would work here. And I'm just going to kind of place them and then kind of make sure that they're straight, because if they moved around on the skewer, I want to make sure they're in the same position. And then also I need to cut this edge of the skewer off. Forgot to do that. And you'll notice too that because these are painted beads, there might be some gapping where the bead has shifted from when it was painted on the skewer. And so I just went back afterwards and did do some little touch-up paint here and there to cover some of those spots. And then I just cut a smaller piece to go across the top, and then I did this all the way around the tray, creating a nice bead border. And now here you can see the finished project with all the beads attached and all the little touch-ups done. I've added the recycled bottles to the top along with some clippings from from bushes in my yard, and just stuck them in the bottles, created a little pattern, added some of the Dollar Tree votive candles as well. And for just a few dollars, you have something that looks like it came from Pottery Barn or West Elm or Crate and Barrel, and would probably cost $100 or more, especially for something this size. So since that centerpiece is going to create such a pretty table, I thought we needed to have some pretty napkin rings to go along with it. So I took some of these Dollar Tree shower curtain rings, and I'm going to just wrap those with some twine. I'm going to start the twine with some hot glue at the top and just secure the twine with that. And then I'm just going to start wrapping the twine around the shower curtain ring. Then I'm going to switch to some of that Titebond glue again. You can just use regular glue here for this application. And then I'm going to just continue to wrap the twine all the way around the shower curtain ring until I get to the other side where I started it. And then I will again use some hot glue to do that final secure and hold it down in place. Then I'm going to take a small piece of wired garland that I had from my stash and that I originally purchased at Hobby Lobby. I just cut a small piece of that and then continue to wrap that around the twine covered shower curtain ring and just bring that through to the other side and cut off any excess. And that just makes the prettiest little ring. And you can see it here with this nice white crisp napkin visiting with our mint basil candle, as well as the little copper watering can with some flowers. For the next project, I'm going to be making use of a couple of these canvases that have been sitting in my garage for the last couple of years. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, and when I was thinking about this project that I wanted to create this lighted wall hanging for my patio, I thought I'm going to use those canvases. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be using the back of the canvas as well as the wood frame. So my first step is going to actually be to tape off the wood frame because I want to paint the back of the canvas, but I want to retain the wood frame for staining. So I don't want to get any paint on that wood frame. So I'll just quickly kind of go around with some painter's tape to cover that inside portion of the frame on the back side. And then once it was painted, I just went back and removed the tape from the back of the frame. And then I flipped the frame back over and began to staple on the front of the frame. So now I want to create a staple border all the way around the front of the frame, just the way the staples were on the back of the frame. And I just continue to go all the way around And then once complete, I took a utility knife and then just cut away the canvas on the outside now of where those staples were. So you see where I am cutting on the outside between the line of staples and the outside of the frame. So I cut that around on all four sides, and now I'm going to remove the canvas from where I had cut and the back of the frame. So what I want to have there is kind of a black square surrounded by the wood frame. And then I took some of this special walnut stain and proceeded to stain all of the wood all the way around the frame. Next, I took some twigs that I had found in the park and just cut them down to size, and then I took some of the white chalk paint and just did a dry brush paint over each of the branches. Next, I took a pack of battery-operated fairy lights and applied those to the inside of the frame using my staple gun. Then I took my branches and arranged them inside the frame, and then I just proceeded to hot glue them in place. Sometimes I did it kind of top and bottom, sometimes I did it straight to the canvas. And here you see the finished project all lit up and pretty, and I'm actually going to do this as a double set, so there'll be two of these linked together, and you'll have to check back to see the patio reveal to see how that came out. Well, I hope you have enjoyed these porch and patio high-end Dollar Tree and Trash to Treasure DIYs. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give a thumbs up, and please share with any family and friends you think will also enjoy this video. If you have a favorite, plan on making any of these, or have a question, please leave a comment below. And if you're not already a subscriber and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you join the family. Also, don't forget, if you'd like to see how the DIYs in this video, as well as the DIYs in the previously published outdoor DIY videos, all come together, you'll want to be on the lookout for those makeover videos coming up shortly. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on FabTax, where we're putting the extra in ordinary, one DIY at a time.